Hello, welcome to this webinar on strategies for covering the gap that you will owe after all financial aid is considered. My name is Greg Orwig. I serve as Vice President for Admissions and Financial Aid here at Whitworth University, and I am excited to share this information, which will include different tools, resources students and families have used over the years to make a Whitworth education affordable. So, what we're going to cover today is the importance of planning and working ahead, using all available resources. Usually families have what feel like a pretty big balance due after financial aid is considered, but if you tackle that in bite-sized chunks, it's much more manageable. We want you to know that you're not doing this alone. We here in the Admissions and Financial Aid Office are here to help, and it's always important to remember your why, in terms of why you are pursuing a college education and the return on investment of completing a degree, which is bigger than it ever has been. All right, we'll dive right in. Right off the bat, I want you all to know that students from all financial backgrounds attend Whitworth today, and will continue to be able to attend Whitworth thanks to the generous financial aid and the strategies that we're going to cover today. You'll note that the biggest portion of students come from the under $50,000 household incomes and just over $150,000 household income. So we're definitely accessible to students from families from all backgrounds. So when you're beginning to calculate the gap or the balance that will be due, you start with the direct costs that will be billed by Whitworth, which will include full year tuition, mandatory fees, the housing, residence halls where you would live, and we've inserted the most common housing situation, which would be a double room where you'd share a residence hall room with one other roommate, and then the full meal plan, which is unlimited access to our dining hall. And that totals up to just over $64,000. It's a big number, but it's not the most important number, because we give out a ton of financial aid, scholarships that we award at the point of admission and then throughout the spring, need-based grants that can come either from Whitworth, from the state, or from the federal government, student loans, and then student employment is another resource that we make available to students that will likely are included in your financial aid offer. So this is a typical financial aid offer that any admitted student from Whitworth either has received or will receive within 2 or 3 weeks of being admitted. And you'll see here that it's based on a point in time, based on the information we've received in the financial aid office. So that date, you always want to pay attention. You're looking at the most recent financial aid offer if you've received a revision. It's based on the EFC, or estimated family contribution, that we receive from the FAFSA or the WASFA. And then we list the financial aid broken down by semester that you have been awarded. And for this imaginary student, it's $31,400. Every incoming first-year student who has not completed more than 30 college credits is automatically eligible for $5,500 in student loans from the federal government. No cosigner, no credit check required for that. And the amount of those guaranteed federal loans goes up to $6,500 for students with sophomore standing and $7,500 for students with junior and senior standing. So the total financial aid for this student is $36,900, which when you subtract that from the total cost that we looked at earlier, $64,620, that's where you get a balance due of $27,720, which is why that list cost or sticker price is not the most important. It's this net price after financial aid. This imaginary student also is eligible based on their financial aid for federal work study of $4,200. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed that amount or they're limited to that amount. It just means that the first $4,200 that they would earn if they got an on-campus job would be paid from the federal work-study budget. Students who earn more than that can continue to work and get paid from the Whitworth student employment budget, or if you're not eligible for federal work-study, It just means all of your student employment would be paid from the Whitworth budget rather than the federal work-study budget. So we have over 800 on-campus jobs. Students eligible for work-study and not eligible for work-study are able to pursue those jobs and get paid for their work. All right, so calculating the gap, pretty simple equation. You take the direct costs that we've talked about, subtract the financial aid you've been awarded, and then the remaining is the gap that we need to figure out how to cover. And there are lots of tools, resources that different families have used to cover that gap. Parent savings, college fund savings, families are the primary resource for paying for a student's college education. And hopefully your family has been able to set aside some funds for that. There are federal parent or credit-based loans that are available for families. Many families are taking advantage of equity they have in their home to borrow against for a couple of reasons. Usually the interest rate on those loans are lower than what you would get through a credit-based loan from bank or a credit union, and that interest is tax deductible on your taxes. So that's something to keep in mind. Consult with your financial advisor on what's the best option for you. Student savings or graduation money, that was a deal that we made with our kids, that they were responsible for a portion of their college education. That gave them more investment in, accountability in, taking advantage of their educational opportunities. So I definitely think that's something to talk about. Student summer or school year work. So a student working in Washington State anyway with our minimum wage, working 40 hours a week just for 10, 12 weeks in the summer could actually make a good amount of money. And putting some of that towards the bill for college, I think, is totally appropriate. And then school year work also is an option. Outside scholarships are free money that are available for the taking, and I'll have some more information about that later. And then private education loans I talked about from like a credit union or a bank. And then Whitworth also finally offers a interest-free payment plan where whatever balance is left after financial aid and these resources, whatever's left, families can sign up for our payment plan and spread that remaining balance over 8 monthly payments during the school year. And I'll have an illustration for how that will work here in a minute. And here we are. This is what I mean. Okay, so we have sent you with your financial aid offer a printed version of this cost worksheet, and I pulled it in here so you can see how you can use that worksheet to build a plan for covering the gap. So in our example, the student had $31,400 in grants and scholarships and $5,500 in federal direct loans, which added up to the $36,900 in financial aid. The cost we looked at were just under $65,000. In this example, I've included the Jan term fee. It wasn't in the other listing we mentioned, and Jan term is optional, but it is the cheapest 3 to 5 credits that you would be able to get anywhere. And there are some really remarkable courses and study abroad opportunities available only during Jan term. So I think it's really wise to plan on including Jan term in your costs for the year. So if you subtract from the cost the financial aid, you get this gap of $28,045. Now, then we start to bring in these resources or tools that I summarized earlier. And if a family has been able to save maybe $30,000, parent savings, grandparent savings, if they have $30,000 and they count on using a quarter of that each year over 4 years, that would mean $7,500 is available in the student's first year. If a student works, like I said, full-time through the summer, in Washington State anyway, that should add up to nearly $5,000. So I have accounted for the student having a little bit of fun money for the summer, but putting $3,000 of that towards the bill for college for their freshman year. School year employment, a student who works just 10 hours a week, just during the school year, not including Christmas break, spring break, summer break, can earn about $4,500 given Washington's generous minimum wage. So if we put a little less than even half of that towards the bill, that would still leave plenty of money for books and spending money and laundry and that kind of thing. So I've put in a little less than $2,000 of that school year employment earnings here, and then assume the student received one outside scholarship, $1,000, and the last two things, the interest repayment plan and home equity loans or parent loans, are the two that are kind of adjustable. So students or families can choose some combination of these two things that make the most sense for their family situation. So I generally encourage families to think about, okay, we're gonna have to use some of our current earnings, some of our monthly budget towards paying for college, and we're gonna have our car paid off by then, and that's a monthly payment of about $570. So we can divert that now towards college, but we really can't afford any more than that. Let's use that as the scenario in this case. So if we can account on a monthly payment of about $568 times our 8 monthly payments, 4 for each semester, that adds up to $45.45 that we're going to be paying for in a monthly payment plan. So we need to take out a home equity loan of $10,000 to fully cover this gap. If you can't afford the monthly payment of $568, then you can put more into the home equity loan or the parent loan. If you can afford, obviously, more than the $568 within your budget. And I really encourage families to realize you're making a significant investment in sending a kid to college, so you should expect making some adjustments to your budget. Maybe have to use that car for a few years longer than you otherwise would. Maybe vacations, other things have to be dialed back. So the more you can pay for in your current earnings out of your monthly budget, the less that you may need to depend on for borrowing. Hope that makes sense. And we have these worksheets available on our website, our Financial Aid website, if you want to access one there. All right. Obviously, the more that you can earn through an outside scholarship, the less that you need to work for or borrow for. So it's the best money that you can try to earn. And here's some tips for finding outside scholarships. One is start soon. It's not too late here in March, but it's getting too late. So you definitely want to get on it sooner rather than later. I recommend having a file where you've collected resumes and letters of recommendation, essays that you might need to use for different outside scholarships. To go looking for scholarships, start with your local high school guidance counselor or college counselor. They generally will have a list of scholarships that students from your high school have received in the past. And I really encourage you to look locally. So there are big name national scholarships from things like the Coca-Cola Foundation, but there are thousands and thousands of students apply for those. So they're very competitive. Whereas if you look at your scholarships available through your high school, PTO, civic organizations like the Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, there are obviously going to be fewer students competing for those scholarships. There's a local Rotary Club that has, I think, 3 $2,500 scholarships that they award every year. And they have contacted me some years to tell me they haven't even had 3 applicants. So you can be the person that helps your local Rotary Club solve that problem if they're in that situation. You should never, ever have to pay to apply for scholarships. And if you're doing that, then I would be worried that the organization may not be on the up and up. Have any questions about outside scholarships, don't hesitate to contact our financial aid office as well. All right, one other really, really important factor when you're thinking about paying for college and the total cost of your degree and the investment is if you can graduate on time in 4 years or less, it's saving you money for sure. And it's much harder to do at large public schools where they don't have the same kind of faculty advising available at Whitworth, where you have to apply usually to get into your actual academic major or program, and you're not guaranteed to get in on your first try. and just where classes may not be available at the time you need and the order you need them. So we guarantee students can graduate in 4 years or less. And if doing so, you obviously avoid paying extra tuition and fees, avoid paying extra living expenses, and you avoid delays in entering the workforce, which means you aren't incurring kind of that opportunity cost or missed earning opportunities of graduating later than you otherwise could. Really important to keep in mind. And one way that such a high percentage of our students can graduate on time, if not early, is because of this Jan term I mentioned earlier. So January term is a 1-month term between fall and spring semester, where students can take up to 5 credits for a very modest fee, $325 this year. And there are a full range of courses available that students will need to graduate, as well as, like I mentioned, up to usually 18, 20 different study abroad programs available for students. And if you add up those 3 to 5 credits times 4 Jan terms, it's an extra 12 to 20 credits that students are able to get, which is the equivalent actually of at least one, if not more than one, full semester that our students are getting for nearly the price of 8 semesters. So it's a really, really good value and contributes to our high on-time graduation rate. All right, next steps for you to keep in mind in this process. We really encourage students to attend an in-person campus visit. We offer at least one in-person campus visit throughout the school year when classes are in session. And not only is it helping you make a good, well-informed decision about whether Whitworth is the best fit for you, we give admitted students a $1,000 visit scholarship if they attend one of our full-day visit events. If you haven't already, I encourage you to file the FAFSA or the WASFA or CSS profile for our international students. That allows us to consider you for all need-based financial aid that you might be eligible for. It also often is a requirement for outside scholarships. So there's nothing to lose but a little bit of time in completing the FAFSA. And this year at Whitworth, we've guaranteed students at least a $500 Whitworth grant if they file the FAFSA. So there's another incentive. Once you've been admitted and completed the FAFSA, we will send you a financial aid offer. You want to review that. And then we've invited everyone after they get their offer to schedule a financial aid Zoom call with your admissions counselor to review your offer, make sure it makes sense, to explore any special circumstances that might impact your eligibility for additional aid, and to talk through different ways that you and your family, given your specific situations, can cover the balance that would put Whitworth in financial reach for you. Sometimes there are additional documents our financial aid office will need in order to award different types of aid to you. And if that's the case for you, they will reach out and notify you about those additional documents. And we need to get those in to fully award your financial aid package. So pay attention to those and get those in as soon as possible. And I'll just reiterate to keep applying for outside scholarships. Now, we are currently about 6 weeks away from the May 1 enrollment deposit deadline. So that's the deadline that colleges across the country recognize as when you need to decide where you're going to school and submit your enrollment deposit to hold your spot at that school. And there's no requirement that you do that before May 1, but there are advantages at Whitworth if you deposit sooner. So as soon as you submit your enrollment deposit, you get access to our housing preference form, and you can use that to identify your top choices for residence halls. And the residence hall assignments are made in the order that that housing preference form comes in. So the sooner you deposit and submit the housing form, the more likely you'll get one of your top residence hall choices. And we know students care about that. Also, we schedule your class registration appointments in the order that the enrollment deposit comes in. So the sooner you deposit, the earlier you'll do your class registration, and the more likely you'll get into the classes that you most want for the fall. The deposit is fully refundable till May 1st. So if Whitworth is high on your list, I encourage you to deposit sooner rather than later. Then after that deadline through the summer, you'll get a billing guide that prepares you for the billing process, which will begin in July. Once you've kind of worked through that billing guide and you've thought through how much you may or may need to borrow through a credit-based loan, or how much you may want to cover using the payment plan, you can sign up or apply for those resources. And then by the first week of August is when those final payment arrangements need to be made, where you have covered your balance either through a direct payments or through through some kind of loan or through the payment plan. All right, and we'll send information about these as we move through the calendar leading up to the start of school. All right, I mentioned how important it is to do an on-campus visit. We have Why Whitworth Days almost every Friday and some Mondays, particularly during spring break weeks. We are closed for visits during our spring break week, however. We have a mentorship visit program coming up mid-April. I encourage particularly students from first generation or underrepresented backgrounds to consider. And then we have daily campus tours every weekday and most Saturdays between now and the end of the school year. Those, however, will not qualify you for the $1,000 visit scholarship because they're pretty limited in kind of the range of programs and experiences that you can get, which is why we recommend coming to one of our full day or overnight visit programs where we do would qualify you for the visit scholarship. I always encourage you to follow us on social media, easy to find, generally at Whitworth University or at Whitworth on the different social media platforms. We've got a great team of students, current students who are posting content to TikTok and Instagram. So it's kind of a fun follow for you. And last but not least, we're here to help. This is a picture of our admissions team this year. You are not bothering us if you reach out to either our financial aid counselors or admissions counselors. We love connecting with you and being a resource to help you and your family make the best possible admissions decision. So thank you for listening today, and best of wishes as you finalize your college search process.